Hey, it's Chris here, and in today's video, I'm going to upset a lot of you. I'm kidding. I hope. In today's video, I'm going to review the Acaia Lunar, the $225 espresso scale that I've talked about for many months now, about it being incredibly overpriced. Was I wrong about it, and is this actually worth the money? Okay, so some quick disclaimers. I did not get this for free. I did pay for it myself, but I did have a $100 gift card, so I got this for just $125 out of pocket versus the retail price of $225. At the time of this review, I have owned and used the Lunar almost daily at home for about 2 months. So as always, let's first start with the build quality. Out of the box, I was immediately surprised by just how small this scale is, especially compared to the Pearl S that I also reviewed. In the box, you also get a heat-resistant pad, a 100-gram calibration weight, and you also get 2 rubber strips that you have to install yourself if you choose to use it on the back of the scale, which does add some nice grip and prevents the bottom metal-on-metal contact with the drip tray. The Lunar measures a roughly 10 by 10 centimeter square and is just 15 millimeters tall. The scale itself also weighs just over a quarter of a kilo, coming in at 265 grams. It also charges via micro USB. I was surprised to find that this was made of metal, anodized aluminum more specifically, unlike the plastic build of the Pearl, which is both nice and concerning. Let me explain why. Now, it's a little bit hard to explain, but using the metal surface with things like my metal dosing cup, my metal portafilter, or even placing it on a metal drip tray that have this weird sort of sensation of why we don't put bare metal objects on things like our MacBooks. While it's definitely not going to damage or destroy the scale, putting metal on metal feels weird, especially since it feels like one of those anodized aluminum MacBook-like finishes that generally people are very cautious with. Another weird thing was that I made a point in my review of the Pearl S about the plastic build quality feeling a little bit cheap, despite it being a very expensive scale. And my guess there was that it was because it's a very durable material. Acaia themselves commented, agreeing with me, noting that it's better for a commercial environment, but then they went on to specifically say avoiding exterior metal or glass. So with this scale being built for a commercial environment, it's weird that it's made of metal, despite what they said on my Pearl S review. I don't exactly know why this is, so maybe Acaia themselves can explain in a comment on this video. Okay, so a lot of my opinions about the Pearl S's smart features mostly carry over to the Lunar as well. I'll start with sort of the dumber of the smart functions. You have a weighing only mode, a dual display mode with timer and weight, as well as an auto tear mode that, well, automatically tears the scale. Moving on to some of the smarter functions, you have a timer starts with flow mode, which starts the timer when flow is detected. In the past, I argued that this isn't useful because I think you should start the timer when you start pulling the shot and not when the liquid flows, since the time in between can vary a lot. Some of you might disagree, and that's fine, but for consistency's sake, that's what I'm going to stick to doing. You also have the auto tear timer starts with flow mode, which does the same thing, but is more sensitive to those first few drops of espresso. And you have my favorite mode, and the one I use the most, which is the auto tear auto start timer mode. Man, these names need to be changed. This mode starts a timer as soon as you put a cup on the scale and it auto tears it, which is great because when you place the cup, it auto tears, the timer starts, and when the timer starts you hear a beep, and when you hear that beep you start the shot. It also auto stops when the flow stops. Now I like this mode a lot because I just start all of my shots with that beep, knowing that everything's going to be auto-teared and auto-stops when the shot is done. And since the shot starts with the time, it is capturing those seconds between starting and first drip. The Lunar is compatible with all the same apps as the Acaia Pearl S, with the exception of the Brew Guide, which is disappointing because that was also the only app that I actually liked. That was the app that allowed you to show different brewing guides for pour-overs or other filter coffee methods. The other thing that app allowed you to do was turn on and off the different smart modes the scale can use. This made it easier for me to cycle between the modes on my Pearl S, whereas on the Lunar I only used 2 modes but have to cycle between like 6 just to get to them. All of my other original opinions about Acaia's app ecosystem still stands here. Why do we need 6 different apps? Why can't they all be integrated into one single app with a modern and clean UI, being able to detect what scale you have and then show you the options for each? Despite being among the leading brands in the market for a smart coffee scale, the smart integrations are still lacking in my opinion. Okay, so I will admit that using the Lunar has improved my workflow, especially the auto tare auto start timer mode that I mentioned earlier. Nowadays, I just dose my beans with the normal weighing mode and then immediately move on to that smart mode. The built-in timer, the auto tearing, and the auto stopping is all a nice to have feature, especially now that I no longer need to pull out my phone to time a shot. In the 2 months I've used this scale, it works reliably, it works quick, and there's not a lot to argue against it other than the elephant in the room, which of course is its price. So is it worth it? At $225, this scale is nearly 20 times the cheaper scale that I used for nearly a year before getting the Lunar. While improving my workflow for sure, is that improvement worth $225? Absolutely not. But would I buy this anyway? Yes. Now before you go down into the comments section furiously typing angry comments, hear me out. The Acaia Lunar is designed to be a scale used in a commercial environment. It says so on their website. It was not intended for the home user, so it's not priced that way either. Now I think that this is one of those items that you get once your upgrade-itis kicks in, and you've already got a setup with a pretty hefty investment in it. And by that, I mean you have a nice machine, you have a nice grinder, and you can pull great shots with a normal or cheaper scale already. So why would I buy this? Well, first, if I was on a budget and I was using a machine like the Gadget Classic Pro, which is a roughly $500 machine, there's absolutely no way you can convince me to spend nearly half that budget on just a scale when the $12 one works just fine. But since I already own a machine like the $1,800 Rocket Apartamento Nira, a $700 grinder like the Niche Zero, and a plethora of other luxury counterpart items, then yes, I'm gonna go ahead and get this as well. But should you get it? Should you go and purchase this $225 Smart Espresso scale? If that price tag is something that's making you reconsider over and over, maybe look elsewhere. But if you've already invested thousands into a coffee setup and you've already upgraded everything there is to upgrade, then why are you watching this? You probably already have this scale in your setup. Now for those who are interested in picking one up, I still suggest you wait. Acaia recently released a new 2021 version of their Pearl scale, so maybe the Lunar is due for an upgrade around the corner. But anyways, that's my take on the Acaia Lunar. You're free to agree or disagree, and before you go angrily typing something in the comments, be sure you've watched this full video and my review of the Pearl S, as I know some of you probably skipped straight to the conclusion part of this video. I hope you enjoyed this video, drop a like if you did, and subscribe if you aren't already for more coffee content, and I will see you in the next one.